Hello everyone, my name is Tyrannosaur. I'm a T-Rex VTuber. For anyone who doesn't know me, it's good to see you here. Hope you're doing well, and welcome to my Dino Fact on Zhuchengtyrannus. Zhuchengtyrannus is a tyrannosaur from late Cretaceous China, with official estimates putting it at around 10 meters long and 5 metric tons. It's one of the top 3 largest tyrannosaurs known to date, right alongside Tarbosaurus for 2nd or 3rd, and both of them being right behind Tyrannosaurus. Of course, Tyrannosaurus you should all know as being one of the most popular dinosaurs of all time, and if you couldn't tell from my username, it also happens to be my absolute favorite dinosaur. I'm not apologizing for that. And over the past couple decades, Tarbosaurus has also gained a bit of a cult following with quite a few paleomedia appearances to its name. But unfortunately, the same can't be said for their cousin Zhuchengtyrannus, who has very few references in paleomedia. In fact, most of this video is going to be mostly paleo art that I find, because the only 2 video-based appearances I can find of Zhuchengtyrannus are: one time, it showed up in Speckles 2 as a background dinosaur, in a franchise that gave both Tarbosaurs, of course, and T-Rex some noteworthy appearances in spotlights, and the other time it showed up was in a fairly mid-documentary Adventures of Ceratops. Other than that, it was in the game Dinosaur Mobile World for Roblox, and all the other game appearances it has so far have just been mods, which are great by the way, but it's still a bit of a shame that not a lot of paleomedia chooses to have Zhuchengtyrannus in it from the get-go, which is why I decided to focus this video on Zhuchengtyrannus, because I feel like this underrated tyrannosaur deserves to get a bit of spotlight. And there's a lot of cool trivia about Zhuchengtyrannus that I discovered while researching this video that I want to now share all with you. With all that said, I think it's high time we finally give this Asian relative of Tyrannosaurus its own throne to sit on. And what better place to start when discussing a megatheropod than its body mass? As I mentioned earlier, Zhuchengtyrannus is tied with Tarbosaurus roughly for 2nd or 3rd largest tyrannosaur to be discovered to date, right behind Tyrannosaurus of course. But that's what I said about the official estimates, but something's been stirring outside of official papers, and if they come true in the near future, it is possible Zhuchengtyrannus will dethrone Giganotosaurus as 2nd largest megatheropod period, which is going to be very interesting. Though note I said it's a possibility. Paleontologist Dave Hone, who discovered Zhuchengtyrannus in 2011, noted that they found a vertebrae that might be comparable in size to the equivalent bone in Choo, a very large famous T-Rex specimen. This specimen, aptly named now Suecheng, and a few other specimens, may insinuate that Zhuchengtyrannus might have been near Tyrannosaurus size. But it is important to note, as Dave Hone himself says, that there's a lot of things to consider with these specimens, and I feel like until we get the official paper, it's best not to deem any of the information I've said in this specific segment definitive just yet. But regardless, Zhuchengtyrannus would still be a very large theropod in its own right, and if it gets the upsize, it's gonna be a 12 meter long, 9 to 11 ton monster, right underneath its cousin again, but as one of the top 2 largest theropods. Speaking of, for this specific segment, we are going to get very deep into the lore of Tyrannosauroid evolution, so sit tight folks. Tyrannosauroids originated in Asia, but some of them were able to move over to North America thanks to a land bridge, resulting in 2 different sets of Tyrannosaurids by the late Cretaceous, with North America having the likes of Gorgosaurus and Daspletosaurus, while Asia had the lineage of Zhuchengtyrannus and Tarbosaurus, as well as a few other Tyrannosauroids like Raul Ramos. And as a North American Tyrannosaurid, it was thought that T-Rex must have descended from something like Daspletosaurus. But in the past few years, due to Zhuchengtyrannus and Tarbosaurus being consistently found as being closer to Tyrannosaurus taxonomically, it's been found that perhaps more likely Tyrannosaurus descended from the Zhuchengtyrannus and Tarbosaurus lineage, of Asian tyrannosaurs, and a direct ancestor of Tyrannosaurs from this lineage was the one to move into North America at a much later time than other tyrannosaurids, where it would then go on to form a new lineage of Asian American tyrannosaurs, I suppose, that outcompeted the local tyrannosaurs and became the new top predator of North America, making way eventually for Tyrannosaurus macarensis in New Mexico, and by the end of the late Cretaceous, last but not least of course, it made way for Tyrannosaurus rex. I do think it's important to note also though, that the local Tyrannosaurs only really lost their title as absolute top of the North American food chains, as there were still plenty around that lived alongside T-Rex and would have witnessed the end of the Cretaceous alongside it, like Dryptosaurus on the other side of the Western Interior Seaway, Nanuqsaurus, the star of my very first Dino Fact video, just chilling up in Alaska in the Prince Creek Formation, and Nanotyrannus, who of course lived directly with Tyrannosaurus in Hell Creek. Safe to say, despite spending millions of years apart, the North American Tyrannosaurs still got the same spirits. But back to the main points, even though we have no way of knowing if Zhuchengtyrannus was the direct ancestor, it and Tarbosaurus' lineage was what led to the most famous dinosaur to ever exist. Now for the next 2 points about Zhuchengtyrannus, they won't actually be about Zhucheng itself specifically, but they'll help to shape exactly why I think Zhuchengtyrannus is quite an incredible animal and an incredible predator of his ecosystem. Enter Sinoceratops, a ceratopsid from late Cretaceous Asia, and also the only ceratopsid we know from late Cretaceous Asia. And note, it's important that I said ceratopsid as opposed to ceratopsian like I normally would, because the Ceratopsidae family of ceratopsians is what specifically addresses the big boys in the group, that have some kind of horn usually, whether it be brow horns, nasal horns, or frill horns. You know, like Styracosaurus, Triceratops, or even Pachyrhinosaurus since they have frill horns. So, even though we definitely know of late Cretaceous ceratopsians, like the famous Protoceratops, Sinoceratops is the only one we know of that was large and had some kind of horn to defend itself. Which is very interesting because, as noted before, there was a land bridge between North America and Asia during this time that allowed for fauna to move back and forth between the continents, but even though North America has pretty much all the ceratopsids that we have so far, Sinoceratops is the only ceratopsid that we know of from the homeland of ceratopsians, Asia. I don't think it's impossible that there may be more that we haven't discovered yet, but for now, Sino stands alone. Which also means that as far as we know, Zhuchengtyrannus is the only Asian tyrannosaurid to have hunted a ceratopsid, kind of like its North American relatives did, like Nanuqsaurus with Pachyrhinosaurus, Lithonax with Diabloceratops, and of course, Tyrannosaurus rex with Triceratops. Sinoceratops may have been lacking in brow horns, but it did have a proportionally quite long nasal horn that would have made up for that. And while Sinoceratops also would have had holes in its frill, like other ceratopsians, that insinuates that ceratopsian frills were more used for display rather than defense, with only a few exceptions like Triceratops and Avaceratops, whose frills were completely full and thus could have provided a little more protection if need be. Sinoceratops at least had the benefit of frill horns, which could have helped dissuade a Zhuchengtyrannus from trying to bite it on the frill, which is something that some ceratopsians like Triceratops can't quite say, as there are fossil records of bite marks from Tyrannosaurids on the frills of ceratopsians like Triceratops. So, all in all, Sinoceratops was a very powerful herbivore that Zhuchengtyrannus was able to live alongside with and probably hunt. But, even though it was less defended, Sinoceratops might not have been Zhuchengtyrannus' most difficult prey item. That might go to the honor of the largest dinosaur that isn't a sauropod, Zhuchengtyrannus. Zhuchengtyrannus is a hadrosaurid from late Cretaceous China. It's the largest known hadrosaurid to date, and as mentioned before, it is the largest known dinosaur that isn't a sauropod. You might know it's like I do from the Isle, and just like its in-game counterparts, the real-life Zhuchengtyrannus would also have been quite a behemoth for any carnivore to deal with. Standing in at 15 to 17 meters long and 13 to 16 metric tons in mass, it would have only been dwarfed by Zhucheng Titan in its environments. But in spite of this, I do believe that Zhuchengtyrannus would have been a dangerous predator for Zhuchengtyrannus. Hadrosaurids have had a bad history of getting treated like fodder, but I do feel like nowadays people have kind of overcorrected to the point that they don't think that large carnivores could have hunted the large herbivores in their environments, even if that was specifically what they were adapted for. This is perhaps most common with Zhuchengtyrannus and Zhuchengtyrannus' closest relatives, Tyrannosaurs and Edmontosaurs. But in spite of this, the fossil record shows that there are plenty of instances where Tyrannosaurs would have hunted Edmontosaurs and succeeded, but also instances where the Edmontosaurus was able to get away and the bite mark from the Tyrannosaurus healed over. Which means an encounter with Zhuchengtyrannus and Zhuchengtyrannus like this would actually have absolutely happened at some point in the past. But also this. Both of them are a lot stronger than most people give one or the other credit for. Zhuchengtyrannus absolutely would have been able to defend itself, but Zhuchengtyrannus would have absolutely been able to get the food it needed to survive. That's how it goes in most cases where large carnivores hunt large herbivores. If the hunt goes wrong, it's gonna go very, very poorly for the carnivore, but that doesn't mean there aren't times where the carnivore does succeed and earns itself a well-deserved meal. Most predators are not gonna go straight for fully grown adult individuals, but large animals still need to eat a lot, and you can't expect easy prey every single time. Overall, Zhuchengtyrannus was not just some monster one-shotting a giant cow waiting to be slaughtered, no. Zhuchengtyrannus was a very powerful animal that was more than capable of killing a Zhuchengtyrannus if it wasn't careful, and that's what I love about Zhuchengtyrannus and other Tyrannosaurids, like the North American Tyrannosaurs I mentioned before, and Ruth the Gorgosaurus, whose story I went a little deeper into in this Dino Fact video. Zhucheng shows that Tyrannosaurs did not have it easy. They weren't one-shotting prey like in the movies. Hunting was difficult, their prey was tough, and one wrong move against the wrong prey animal could lead to serious injury or even death. But in spite of that, Zhuchengtyrannus and other Tyrannosaurs were able to persevere against these large, powerful herbivores and coexist with them for millions of years as their most dangerous hunters. Zhuchengtyrannus helps show that Tyrannosaurs were more than deserving of their titles as kings of dinosaurs. That's all I have to say for now. Thank you very much for watching, and bye-bye for now.